And on your world, you were a prodigy. Well, that makes sense. Because your rhymes are only hot periodically. Listening to you took everything I have left. After your raps, I am become deaf.
Destroyer of worlds.
You need an Iron Man for that wrinkly ass skin and that butt chin. There might be something in the MCU, but between us, who's the worst MCU? Okay, I'm sorry.
I actually never watched that one.
Oh, like, for real? That's like one of the best ones.
I like stopped at like season 2. It was
oh, dude, Oppenheimer versus Thanos was one of the best fucking and Oppenheimer destroyed him too. It was so good. I
have seen the thumbnail in my feed. I might actually, because of you, actually go watch it this time. So, yeah, guys, welcome. We're here.
You want to talk about death? How about the one that looked at you and swiped left? And can I keep it a stack with you?
That was a pretty good one. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I keep it a stack with you? I kind of liked the rap battle a little better than the movie. Can I keep it a stack with you?
I can't blame you for that. Yeah. Because, guys, again, as I was rudely interrupted again for the 15th fucking time by our amazing guest, David Rivera.
I can't recite the whole battle.
He could also recite to you how to make an atomic weapon out of nails and a string of and a piece of string.
What is it, like Breaking Bad? Like it just fucking teaches you, oh, I know how to make meth now? Like what? Like, what?
Well, there was that one fucker like way back when who like he made a nuclear weapon like in his garage or something. Like apparently like it was fairly easy to make.
Could it destroy a small city?
Yeah.
Oh, actually? Like, did he, like, make,
no.
Okay.
No, it was just, like, the whole thing was that I could do it. It's just not that strong, because intercontinental ballistic missiles could nowadays level, apparently, 3 New Yorks. Like, that's, like, the fucking radius.
Is that how they measure it? How many New Yorks?
Dude, there was a scene where, guys, we're going to be talking about Oppenheimer because
here on the Double D Experience.
Here on the Double D Experience,
talking about Oppenheimer, yeah.
Exactly.
Just not to be confused with Oppenheimer.
Just like the 2 bombs that destroyed those 2 Japanese cities, they're 2 Ds right now here to give you this amazing experience. Those cities be no more right now.
Oh my god.
But yeah, guys, we watched Oppenheimer, and well, not together, unfortunately. I actually would have loved to go with you and sit through that fucking 3-hour goddamn long ass movie. And even though, truthfully, I'm memeing, I honestly didn't feel those 3 hours. Even though I personally thought that by the second half, and guys, we're going to be talking about it just like kind of in no particular order right now, but like
just like the fucking movie.
By the second half, I was just kind of like, oh, like,
were you checked out as I was?
No, a little bit, but like it did, because it is Christopher Nolan, and at least for me, Nolan could cook up a good movie, even if he loves to make some really long ass movies. And Dark Knight, I think, was just kind of like his like benchmark now at this point, considering like a lot of people even said by like the last like 30 minutes of the Dark Knight, it just felt as if this is going on way too long. And not that I agree with it, but I do understand where people's criticisms are for a lot of his movies being so fucking long, like Godfather level of long. But at least personally for me, I really enjoyed the second half, and I at least did kind of really get intrigued about like kind of what Oppenheimer's life was like after the bomb. Because truthfully, and again, this is just coming from a historian who almost knows nothing about him other than the fact that he helped build the atomic bomb. We knew nothing about this guy after that. And I think it's kind of a shame because I thought that this is like the way that even the movie kind of says that by his decade, he was arguably the most important man in the world. And I kind of do agree. If I was living around that time and if I was like not a kid, but like an adult and I heard about him in the news, I would kind of agree. Considering like, you know, this was the guy who basically changed the, like, I don't want to say like change the entire world because it just seems so fucking lofty to say, but really he kind of did considering the landscape that we live in now. I wouldn't say is entirely his fault because it's like the Germans were already building a bomb. That I think a lot of people already knew that they already had a nuclear weapons program. And they were already kind of like got a bit of a head start, but because of the fact that Hitler, being the hateful fuckhead that he was, and considered nuclear science as Jewish science, and just basically like downplayed. No, he really did. He downplayed his own fucking nuclear weapons program because
did you laugh as hard as I did?
I did, but also I did it because I already knew that. Because like the reason why because like a lot of the guys who basically escaped from Germany around that time, they were Jewish scientists, and these were the same guys that Hitler literally went up to them and just said, like, you're not a part of this program no more because of your religion. And like, so at least for me, like, you know, we kind of already know like the somewhat of the pre-war era, and like kind of like I actually never seen a picture of Heisenberg because like again no this is not a Breaking Bad reference, but when Walter brought him up, like I had never even seen a picture of the dude, and then I actually like after the movie kind of looked up the wiki a bit and just kind of like did a little, I guess not refresher so to say, but more so just kind of like a little bit of a dive into like kind of that whole like the couple of years that led up to the creation of the bomb, and then even like Oppenheimer's like sort of fall afterwards, because he just kind of like there was a bit of a falling out that he had with like the US government, and like a lot of the powers that be kind of wanted to curb his influence because he was trying to kind of influence policy when it came to nuclear proliferation, because he was more so on the side of arms control rather than arms proliferation. But and then in the movie, like, you know, the way Cillian Murphy, I don't know how old he is now, but he plays an old man from the 40s and 50s fucking very well. And there were a lot of times, for anyone who's watched Peaky Blinders, there was so many times where I saw Cillian Murphy and all I just was expecting him to say, "Don't mess with the fucking Peaky Blinders." There's so many fucking scenes where like at least just the dress that he had just made me think of Peaky Blinders like immediately. Mm-hmm. And the way he kind of plays like this very charismatic, very like well-spoken, eloquent man, which I suppose that Oppenheimer was. Don't really know too much about the guy, but I know apparently that the movie was kind of based off of this one biography that was made a couple years back. May actually want to like go pick it up because like I think really like the life he had, at least as it was portrayed in the movie, was actually very interesting. I think I know it's such a cop out thing to say, but I think it really was interesting considering like the world was changing by 1945. And the whole like sort of atmosphere that the world was in when, with the advent of when, not just after we dropped the bomb on Japan, but also when Russia revealed that we have a bomb too. It's bigger than last one. And it got everyone fucking scared. And the Americans, at least, there was a scene that like I looked it up, and apparently it was between Truman and Oppenheimer. And it was like, sorry guys, I'm sorry. I should have probably said it before, but this is spoilers for Oppenheimer. And if you guys haven't watched it yet, I guess just skip ahead to the next timestamp of when we're not going to talk about it. But yeah, we're talking about Oppenheimer here. And sorry, I didn't say some spoiler warning until like 20 minutes in. But like, I know it's only 9 minutes. I wasn't looking. Felt like I was going on for 20 minutes. But there's a scene, yeah, from when Truman and Oppenheimer meet, and like you could see that I want to call him Robbie, his name's Robert, but like, you know, Oppenheimer like is clearly remorseful about like what the fuck happened there, and he's trying to like kind of like almost get some like kind of affirmation from the president, like saying that, like, you know, I was the one that made this thing. And then Truman, I guess in his own way, reality checks him, saying that, you think anyone's going to give a flying fuck about who made the bomb? They're going to care about who dropped it. Me. I'm going to get shit for it. And like that kind of rubbed Truman off in the wrong way, because it's like, why are you crying? I'm the one that basically ordered it. And he basically told him to get the fuck out. It was honestly like one of the coldest fucking things I've ever seen, where like a president straight up tells you to get the fuck out. And I'm gushing about the movie. There is plenty of things that I really did like about it. And even my girlfriend, who I watched it with, the movie was 3 hours, but at the very least, like, we weren't bored throughout much of it. There was a lot of times where there was a lot of times.
We?
Trust, yes, we, David.
We?
Yeah. There was a lot of times, though, where we did kind of get lost in the jargon, because obviously this is a movie about a nuclear weapon, or like an atomic weapon. And like, there's obviously a lot of science behind it. And even me, in the C- that I've had in my science class from years back, I had a bit of trouble, like, then kind of catching up with a lot of it. Although a lot of the times the movie was trying real hard. I could tell that it was trying real hard not to delve too deep into the terminology, because they knew that they would lose the audience if they did. So the way that they sort of kind of explained a lot of the terms and theories was more so in a very like kind of simplified sort of way, but also written in a way where at the very least it's like they did a lot of analogies that to like kind of compare, let's say, a lot of the concepts, because they knew that, okay, if we just kind of explain this dryly like a science teacher, our audience would hate this fucking movie. And there were, and I don't know if that is the case, but it definitely...
That has to do with like directorial styles. Because I don't know if you remember The Big Short. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
That movie was basically about the stock market crash of 08. Or whatever fucking year it was. Of 09,
also, go watch that movie too. It's a good movie.
That's the thing with that movie, man, because it's like very, very complicated economics in that movie.
Yeah.
And the way that film does it is it tries to be like trendy with it. And it's like, and here to explain what short selling is, we have Bar Raffaelli in her hot tub. And then they'll cut to Bar Raffaelli naked in her hot tub explaining.
No, it was Margot Robbie.
You know what? They did
I know,
like
I know.
times. I'm just spitting out. It doesn't have to be fucking exact. Yeah. And it wasn't actually Robert Downey Jr. in the fucking, Oppenheimer movie, facts, whatever. But,
it was actually great seeing him again, though.
Yeah, it was.
RDJ.
Yeah, it's probably even better for him being there, just distancing himself from Marvel a little bit.
Yeah,
he said he wanted to do that. Yeah,
I was happy about that.
He probably came out like more scot-free than most of the actors in that shit, except for probably Chris Pratt, but,
maybe Evans, too. I don't know, I feel as if Evans, like,
he's done a couple things.
Yeah. Just not good ones. Because he's in that Lightyear movie.
Well, he was also in that romantic comedy, or that romantic spy comedy.
Oh, yeah, those are just great for the career.
He's good, man. He doesn't need it.
I meme, because, like, I don't have a Hollywood career.
Who don't got a strike on the picket line right now, man. Like, he's got, that kind of money. Hopefully he still does, though, or at least supports it, but whatever. But with Nolan, it's different if we're transitioning a bit from, like, the history of it, because, like, part of the reason I didn't like this movie that much is because it is so Nolan.
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
It is one of the most Chris Nolan movies I've ever seen in my life. It's got, like, the full, like, like that, like, those, like, fucking, that soundtrack that he has in every scene, like, I can't even make the sound with my mouth.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But that kind of like sort of like computerish like orchestral sound that he has.
Dark Knight kind of like.
The Dark Knight, like the whole movie is just like fucking.
Yeah, there's always like this little like sort of beat like in the background. Yeah. Oh, that's also just Hans Zimmer though. I don't know if Hans Zimmer was in this movie.
It sounded like the fucking Dark Knight sound OST to me, or soundtrack, I guess, as movies go. Gamer lingo. That, and the big reason I did not like it is because, like, Chris Nolan likes to show off in his writing and his directorial style, and that I'm so good at writing this shit, I can write a movie completely the fuck out of order, and you'll still be able to understand it enough to a T, and that is the thing I didn't like, man. In the second half, the movie became very hard to follow for me, just because it's so much juxtaposition, so many jump cuts between like this part of like the
the interrogation,
the prosecution, this part of the prosecution, this part of the prosecution. It doesn't just go like a normal movie where it'd be like, okay, here's when they prosecuted Oppenheimer, here's where they prosecuted his wife, here's where they prosecuted like some other scientists that were on the project. It takes bits and pieces from editing. It must have been a fucking nightmare of every single like part of it, all in all. And a lot of people like that directorial style, and it's insane like when it actually works and it's expertly done and you can understand the gist of what's going on.
But this time around for you, it just didn't.
It was still very hard. You know, my father had to explain to me the entire reason he was even being prosecuted afterwards, or why the senator was even like prosecuting him for being investigated for being a communist after the bombs went off, because that was never clear to me. I knew that happened to him beforehand going in because I knew the history, but from just the movie itself, it wasn't clear even why like they even went the route that he was being interrogated in the first place. At least it wasn't for me. It was just so Nolan-y, and part of the reason I like Dark Knight is because it's, you know, ironically, like very less Nolan-y. That movie really doesn't tell its story out of order at all. It's completely
It's pretty linear, yeah.
It's very linear. Like, most of his movies are not like that. Even Memento, a movie I love, which the whole theme of that movie is that it's told completely fucking backwards. But it worked there.
But that's also like a technique that other directors use. It's like, oh, we're going to just go and start the movie at the end, and then we're just going to then go and trail backwards, and then the ending is basically how it all began and shit.
You're thinking of like, you're thinking of flashbacks, though. That's not what Memento is. Like,
no, I'm not talking about Memento. I'm just saying, like, at least other movies have done that. Like, that sort of kind of like, I guess, style, where they started at the end and then they like sort of ended at the beginning. Yeah. Just to at least show you like, oh, this is how it all went down. This was the guy who did it. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, but like it's like something you know in Memento, right? Like where they do that, and then
I also never watched Memento, so like that's
it starts with showing like who did the whodunit, and then like you're being like, oh, what's the point? We know who did it, but then it's just as interesting how it's told backwards. And obviously this is not the case with like Oppenheimer, but you know, I don't know, man. It's just it was too tropey as far as Nolan's films go. That's the reason I didn't like it that much.
I'd say it's if it was like tropey just in relation to Nolan, because he's a very distinct sort of kind of director, and he has his own very distinct style. And I think I've seen a lot of people kind of go flip-flopping and saying that like, it's like, oh, this is Nolan's best, to like, oh, what the fuck? Like, it's like, he's doing this shit again. It's like this kind of like that little debate going on about it. And I think personally for me, it's like anyone who's not J.J. Abrams is all good in my book, no matter what they kind of do, because I fucking hate J.J. Not I'm kidding, I don't really hate J.J.
It's like
Abrams.
Wes Anderson. Like, you can tell a Wes Anderson movie the second you watch it, and it's the same with Nolan. Like, you'll know it's a Nolan movie because it's got the marks. That,
and also, I think it's, if you liked Nolan's style in his previous movies, Dunkirk and even like a few others, not counting Dark Knight, because this is like this is all post Dark Knight, all of the stuff that we're talking about.
Inception, which is another movie that I think kind of insists on itself a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of that movie either. So
it was so weird how that movie got so popular overnight. I never understood it. I thought it was a good movie, but the way people talked about it was as if this was like the second coming of Christ. Like, it was so odd to me. I just didn't get it. I liked the movie. Again, I did like it, but I didn't think it was like so jaw-droppingly fucking amazing that like it just invalidates every other movie since then. It's like, oh, fucking shits on all of them. Like, I don't know. I just didn't get it.
It crossed a point where like movies were stopped being linear in that kind of way, and like these directors tried to start doing other things, and people thought they were huge intellectuals for it. Same thing happened with fucking Rick and Morty, and now the Rick and Morty fans think they're fucking geniuses because they like Rick and Morty.
Unironically too, that's what's even sadder.
You know what I mean? And Inception was low-key the same thing, because the movie was so deep and so confusing at the time. We're in a dream within a dream, and if you die at this point in the dream, you go to limbo, but you can't kill yourself at this point in the dream, otherwise you'll go in that guy's dream, and then that guy's having a wet dream, so you have to jack him off first before he's done. It's like, you can't, like, it was cool at the time, and now looking back on it, people became sick of it, because now we want our stories to make a little more sense again, which, I don't know. Like, that's part of the reason. And another thing, really, beyond the directorial style, is because it focuses, and I appreciate this about the movie, actually, way more on the man instead of just what he did. It's about Oppenheimer. It's about his life before, during, and after the bomb. We don't see the explosion. You see the, like, spoiler alert, I guess. There you go, fuck. You don't see the explosion, you see the test explosion that they did. Mm-hmm. And it didn't hit me as hard as I thought it should have. Like, I was told it was supposed to, well, I didn't see it in an IMAX, so maybe that's part of the reason. But, like, it's supposed to, like, shake the seats. And all it did was jump scare me like fucking Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, no, because, yeah, it did for me
because
too.
the flash happens, you see the flash, and then instead of, like, you're bracing yourself for the explosion, which I gotta say, the movie did a wonderful job at building up the tension before it. Wonderful fucking job. The music was,
that was great.
Chef's
that was great.
I was gripping my seats, I'm like, okay, it's gonna be loud. It's gonna fucking...
Because I almost forgot.
It cooks you. Because like, the flash happens, it goes dead silent while everyone's gripped in their seats, but and then he just goes, I am become death, destroyer of worlds. Oh, and then it fucking
because you forget sound travels. It takes a while sometimes for obviously you to hear it. So
that's part, right, actually.
That part kind of eluded me because I was just like, this is how fucking stupid I am. I legit in my head was about to be like, hey, yo, what happened to the sound? And then it's like,
they don't show the TV interview. I thought for sure what they were gonna do
was like ended with that TV interview. That like famous one?
Not even the TV interview, which by the way, the movie doesn't even do the thing where like, oh, J. Robert Oppenheimer after this, like, you know, like the bio. They didn't do that either, which was surprising. I guess it's just not Nolan's style because he doesn't normally do period pieces like this all the time.
I also think though it wasn't strictly meant to be a kind of traditional biopic.
That's what I'm saying. It's like not his style really to do that. He's like, here's my take on a biopic. This is what I would do if I made biopics, which is dope. Like it's just it's his own thing and it's different for it, you know?
I think also because of the crazy amount of cuts in the movie, it made it feel, not that it made it feel like it was a bit more action-y, bit more quicker paced than, let's say, a biopic typically is, where it's a bit of a, not really a slow burn, depends on, I guess, what the biopic is about. But at least in his case, because of all the fucking cuts, like every 30 seconds, or I'm fucking around here, guys, and I don't really mean he was cutting like every 30 seconds, but like with the amount of cuts that he was kind of doing like throughout the entire movie, from the interrogation to the hearing to the fucking RDJ's character trying to become a member of the president's cabinet, and just a lot of other shit kind of going off, especially even during when the project was still going on in Los Alamos. Like, you know, it felt like a lot of shit was just happening all at once because there was like 3 plots that were basically happening all at once. His hearing, the RDJ's hearing, and then plus the bomb. But that plot ends up getting, I guess, wrapped up by the end, or like by the middle of the movie, I guess. And then the rest of it is just kind of like the 2 hearings that we're now then focused on. But at least again, like the runtime, it was definitely 3 hours, because I didn't really feel it, at least by the end. But when I checked my clock, I was actually kind of shocked. I was like, oh fuck. And like 3 hour movies just kind of like if they're boring, if your movie is 3 hours and it's boring, fuck you with a stick. But if you're like Nolan and a bunch of other guys who I think at least, like, you know, if anyone's who's watched Lord of the Rings and watched like the director's cut, like Return of the King's like 3 hours and 20 or 3 hours and 15, I think. And like no one, like, I've never heard, if you really enjoyed it, I never heard anyone being bored of Lord of the Rings, like flat out. I've never heard of it. Like, it's like, a lot of the extra stuff that they added in was like, it's like more meant for like kind of the lore people, I suppose, because it's like, at least the theatrical cut was still like 2 hours and 40. That's still a good fucking chunk of time for a movie.
You like, really think nobody ever gets bored of the Rings? You sure?
No. I'm talking about like the diehard fans. Like these are the people who, like, that's what I'm saying. These are the people that would watch this shit like fucking every year.
Man. Like Tolkien like drops the backstory on every fucking tree branch.
This tree branch was picked off from a tree from 2,000 years ago
by the first hobbit.
And the Lord Sauron threw the stick at a hobbit, and the hobbit got angry.
Fly, you fucks.
It's like, fly, you fucks. And then he chucked the ring at him. And
Oppenheimer was way more of a movie than a biopic. Is
Absolutely,
basically, I think, what we're trying to say. Like, it was very much like Nolan's movie. It's not like, hey, it's like a normal biopic of, like, completely linear. Oppenheimer did this, then he did that, then he did that, then he did that, then he did that. 3 hours, and then it's just Nolan directed it. Yeah. And it's not like an and then this happened. It's like, and then this happened while this was happening, while that was happening, and then this happened after that. Yeah. So, I thought for sure, I guess the movie didn't really take much of a stance either, because, like, the whole debate is on whether you should have dropped the bomb or not. And there's this one great scene where, like, the stress that's getting to him is, like, is, like,
the Flash.
It's like it's symbolized through the Flash, and he hears the explosion in his head. Like, he gave like a rallying speech to a bunch of troops, and he's like forcing himself to say shit he doesn't want to say. He's like, and I just wish we dropped it on Germany first. Oh, yeah.
When I heard that, I was like,
different time, man.
Because there was a lot of guys on that project that, like, I suppose knew him a bit more on a personal level. And, like, I know at least in that scene, like, the question of, like, should we have really dropped it or not, like, kind of subtly came up for me because of the fact that, like, well, if we didn't do it, if we didn't build it, then these clearly evil fuckers were gonna do it.
Yep.
So, like, we had to be the ones to basically drop out on them first, or at least build it first. And, like, now... It was so, like, you know, there was, I think there was a mention of it in the book. And I don't want to quote the book too much because, again, I haven't really read it. But apparently there was a lot of I'm trying to find the word here, like, fucking stupid. Like, not misgivings, but, like, maybe I guess misgivings. Like, from a lot of people on the project where by the end and when they were getting closer towards the first test, or, like, the final test, I guess, a lot of guys on the project were getting a lot of very strong second thoughts about building this shit because they knew what it meant if they successfully made it. And, like, what, like, would come afterwards. And I think it was just sort of that kind of, like, thing where they were so focused on just building the fucking thing that the closer they got to it, they sort of kind of realized, like, oh, fuck, like, what are we doing?
It, like, loomed. It wasn't, like, a big idea at first. It just, it loomed as it went on, you know?
Yeah. And, like, I think they had to have an idea of, like, what the world's landscape would have been like after they built this shit. Because a lot of times in history, whenever someone did build, like, the weapon, and it became, like, the weapon, like, that everyone was using, everyone else just sort of, like, kind of picked it up, too. And I'm not talking in the same vein of, like, oh yeah, like, he built a cannon, we can build a cannon. He built a gun, we could build a gun. It was more so because, like, at least when it came to technology like this, the world had the scientists to build it. They even had, I guess, the technology to build it. But it was more so, like, there was just a few things about it, at least from what I got from the movie. And again, I don't know nothing about, like, at least this sort of side of history. But, like, we just need just to figure this fucking thing out. And if we could figure it out, then we could build this shit.
Yeah.
And, like, once they figured it out, again, they even compare Oppenheimer to a modern day Prometheus. Prometheus literally gave fire to the rest of the world, and for his punishment, he was literally chained to a fucking mountain. And he was basically, other part of the punishment was that, like, an eagle or some big ass fucking bird just claws at it, like, just eats at his, like, insides, but he will not die. Like, that is his internal punishment, his eternal punishment.
Right.
And, like, I think it's weird because, like, you said that before that the movie was trying, or at least the movie wasn't really taking, like, a hard stance on, like, where they stand with this guy. But I think at least, I don't know, maybe this is, like, kind of a really weird cockamamie way of, like, kind of looking at it from my perspective. But I think they did in saying that, like, this guy cannot be just judged as good or bad by anybody. There's no black and white to this man, like, at all. He's supremely complicated when it comes to just kind of, like, what he did and the ramifications of it, like, came afterwards.
Yeah, you know, there's people who still debate about it today, you know, and, like, the movie does a wonderful job at talking about that because, like, in the boardroom, like, there's, like, a whole debate on whether they should do it or not, and they talk about, oh, the Japanese will never quit, like, more people will actually die if we don't drop this thing.
Yeah.
Like, they said that, but then it's innocent people dying. Which was true, yeah. And then they talk about, like, the ramifications of what will happen afterwards, what it turned into, the whole Prometheus thing. And I think they wanted to not steer so hard in that direction, because one thing that I was expecting in the film that I now understand why we didn't get, we never see the bombs drop on Japan. They don't show that. They don't show it dropping on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because that, like, the visuals would essentially be the equivalent of watching, like, those, like, you know, PETA advertisements that never make you want to eat at McDonald's again. You know what I mean? Where they show you, like, chopping up the chickens, they show you cutting their heads off, chopping up the pigs and shit, like, for your bacon and whatnot, slaughtering the cows, like, for your fucking Big Mac. It'll make you not want to do that again, even though you're not the one who did it. It's protein or whatever. You're not against eating meat. It would have been the same thing if they show the fucking zombie people that were, like, walking around with their faces melted and shit. That would have given the movie a clear stance, which, as Dennis pointed out earlier, was clearly not its goal. At least not maybe until the very end. But, you know. Well,
because that's the thing. At least by the end, like, I think the movie concludes that this man is a tragic figure. Not a hero. He's not a hero by any means, in my opinion. I think what he did for his country and building the damn thing, I don't know where to stand on it, really. Because it's like, he did a great service. I think that goes without saying. I think what his team and what they did and everything, just objectively scientifically, was a breakthrough. That cannot be understated. But it's just more so that, like, again, the ramifications that came afterwards. And, like, just kind of the world we live in now, where it's like, we joke about, like, oh, yeah, North Korea is going to threaten to nuke everybody, like, thing. You know, it's only a meme until it's not. And well, we kind of shit on North Korea anyways, because it's like there's nothing that they can't intimidate nobody anymore. Like, roll up the U.S. Pacific Fleet and they'll literally just calm the fuck down. That's just how it'd be. But even now, like, Russia, like, and the war that they're waging now in Ukraine, and, like, even just kind of, like, don't know if this is true or not, but, like, I did hear rumblings that, like, you know, fucking Putin trying to be rolling up the ICBMs, like, up there. But, like, we haven't had the significant thing is that we haven't had a nuclear device dropped on a civilian location since 1945. And we've apparently escaped nuclear annihilation a couple times already. Not many times, but a couple times. We've escaped it. The Cuban Missile Crisis being the biggest one, obviously, off the top of my fucking head. And that was a pretty close one, considering, like, Kennedy was the one that was saying we should nuke the fuck out of them. He was the one that was saying it. The president who everyone loves to say, oh, he was great, we love Kennedy. He was also real trigger happy with the fucking nukes when it came to the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was also, his finger was a little trigger happy when it was inside of Marilyn Monroe. But anyways. Like, I don't know. I think Kennedy also is just kind of like a bit more of a nuanced guy. It was so funny. They kind of tied him into the movie. There was a guy who was a commissioner during Robert Downey Jr.'s hearing, and the guy's name was JFK. I was like, oh! There's going to be a Nolan movie about JFK. Fucking watch. There's going to be one. And it's going to...
That doesn't seem like the kind of guy he would make a movie about.
I think it is. I think just because everyone, like, just historically views him so, like, publicly, they view him so favorably. But if you really kind of look into the man himself, he's kind of a piece of shit.
I will say what America needs now is definitely not another Kennedy. As we're learning about right now. I've been saying for years that we need another Roosevelt. That's what I think we need. We need a Roosevelt.
Either FDR or Theodore. We need one of them.
I still think Teddy Roosevelt is still probably to this day the best president.
He's goated.
Among the best presidents the country ever fucking had. Like, without question. That's what we need right now. So I can kind of agree with you on that front. I mean, there's definitely more to discover about it, but my fucking God, there have been so many JFK miniseries and biopics. They, like, so many on him.
That's true. There
have been so many. We actually don't need another one on him. Real shit. No, like, there's other presidents we can fucking do, but, like, regardless of what we need, it's whatever Nolan's fucking, you know, tickling his asshole about at any given time, you know, whatever he wants to fucking do.
Nolan's, like, up there now with, like, Tarantino and fucking,
easily,
like, and Scorsese. He's just like, give me the money and I'll make my movie. It's like, okay. and they just give him the money.
Even Einstein, it's like he was only in like this movie for like. Well, I mean, I guess
so
he played
great.
his role, but like.
Yeah, and the guy who played him actually fairly looked like him. I don't know. I thought he looked closer to Einstein than Cillian Murphy did to Oppenheimer. So I was like, okay, like they're not too bad. Like this is just strictly going off of like how close they look like to the real people. Because Oppenheimer, like Cillian Murphy had some angles where he did look like the man, but it was more so when he just was a bit older. When they aged him by like near the end of the movie, he actually kind of looked like the guy, just a like bit more than he did when he was a bit younger.
Mm-hmm.
But
you know, the kind of guy where you can like just pretty much see his skull through his face.
it's like so hollowed out by the end. Yeah, like guy was actually fairly skinny. I think people actually described him as like the guy looks frail, but he's got the energy of like a fucking gorilla. Like he's just like got that crazy like just like gotta do it kind of energy. And
also Josh Peck was in this movie for some fucking
yo,
reason.
it was honestly, this is like we're gonna I know it sounds like we're deviating off from like I guess more so about like the meat of the movie, but like there was a couple casting choices in this movie that I was like oh, like okay, you in this movie, like Josh Peck being one of them. Not that like I was like thinking, oh, he doesn't deserve to be in this movie. This is above his pay grade. Like nothing like that.
Tom Hardy played the Russian dude, right?
No, that wasn't Tom Hardy.
Oh, I thought it was.
No. Damn, if that was Tom Hardy, that was Tom Hardy with prosthetics on him and shit.
I thought it kind of looked like him. My bad.
Dude, you're not going to ask Tom Hardy to do an offensive Russian accent.
But you can make him sound like Winnie the Pooh.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can make him sound like Xi Jinping, the great Chinese chairman of the Communist Party. But, that was a bad joke. But, I don't know. It was actually kind of crazy to see, like, so many, like, I guess you could call them fairly big name, but, like, obviously the bigger names being Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. And I don't know if Robert Downey Jr. was in the promotional material, like, at all. I don't think he was. I don't believe so. Just because, like, I don't know, maybe. I just hadn't really seen a lot of the TV ads or even the trailer. I only watched, like, the first one, and I don't think, what was his character's name? Strauss. Or Struss. Such a fucking wasp thing to do. Actually, it's pronounced Struss. It's like, fuck you, man. I'll pronounce your name however the fuck I want. But, he's such a douchebag in that movie. I just loved it that Robert Downey Jr. got to play a douchebag again that wasn't Iron Man.
Right.
Something was just so appropriate and like just felt right. Seeing him play such like
Rami Malek,
Rami Malek, yeah.
Rami Malek and Jack Quaid.
And Jack Quaid,
the guy from The Boys, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was yeah, man, it was actually crazy the amount of people they got for this.
It's all Nolan's movies, man. Like he always has like these like fucking. Gary Oldman was in this.
He played Truman, I think.
That's right, he did.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because his Truman makeup reminded me of Churchill. And I was like, you look very familiar, old man. And then like it hit me. It's like, oh my god, that's Gary Oldman.
Casey Affleck was in this?
Yeah, he played that really fucking scary army officer who he like showed up to the university again to like kind of talk to Oppenheimer about like, you know, who did you talk to? Like, where did you go? Like, what did you do? He was like this very soft-spoken, but he looks like he could like reach into your chest and rip your heart out kind of guy. He was actually fairly scary. He was like the kind of guy that like it's like, you know, when Bane touched the guy's like neck, just went quiet immediately. He's like that kind of guy. That's at least like the kind of vibe I got from the dude. I was like, oh, fuck, this guy's sinister as fuck.
Wait, Josh Peck didn't say that line?
What?
Josh Peck played Kenneth Bainbridge.
Yeah.
Kenneth Bainbridge was the guy who, after the first nuclear test, said, "Now we are all sons of bitches."
Oh, did he not say the line?
No!
Oh, what a missed opportunity.
That's what I'm saying,
It's such a good line.
That is a bigger missed opportunity than at the end of Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow doesn't say sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog. He says goodbye forever, Shadow the Hedgehog. And apparently it was a translation error that's why he doesn't say that.
I mean, localization.
Biggest fucking ball drop ever.
Localization errors like that did happen a lot back in the day. Yeah,
straight up. You remember at the end of Sonic Adventure where like Sonic turns, like as the credits rolling, he says sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog. And it's like, oh, that was perfect. I don't know why, but that was perfect. And then Shadow, when he like overcomes everything about himself, says, I don't give a fuck about my past no more. He doesn't say it. Suck my dick. That game fucking sucked ass. Whatever though. That's unfortunate that he didn't say that. Yeah, Florence Pugh. I forgot she was.
Oh
in this too.
Yeah, her too.
She's literally she was his fuck toy. That's literally what Florence Pugh was in this fucking movie. And then she kills herself. Spoiler.
One thing that my girlfriend did say, Oppenheimer be a trifling ass motherfucker. Like he really just be fucking anything and anyone that moved.
Well, granted, the man was under a lot of stress.
Guy was a womanizer. Like the guy actually was a fairly known womanizer.
Why are all these guys who like do these things, like these big things, happen to just be womanizers at the end of the day? Like the historical figures, I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
That I'm talking about. Everybody just looks the other way because usually the shit that they did is just usually way more important. Like again, like JFK, total fucking womanizer. But like the guy prevented nuclear holocaust even though he wanted to do nuclear holocaust. So it's like people are like, okay.
It's the way also they frame the narrative nowadays, because at least I think a lot of presidents and even a lot of the good ones that we've had over the years, like they have been kind of more criticized over the years, because I think a lot of people are kind of just taking off like the sort of rose-tinted glasses, because at least a lot of the ones who are criticizing them are like fairly more younger generation, like kind of historians who are like, just finished college, and like, the way at least the dissertations are, like it's like not just more so like kind of writing it in like the romantic sense, but really just kind of criticizing a lot of them. Even Teddy Roosevelt, who we both love, was a big lover of gunboat diplomacy, because he just straight up said, if they don't want to open the country, open fire. I don't give a fuck. Like they're gonna open up. I don't give a shit. That was exactly what he said to the American Navy when they went past Japan. Like, they came back, like, because there was two events that happened. They showed up the first time, and they went back, and then they came back because they got orders from Teddy himself. If they're not going to open up, well, then open fire. Fuck it. He straight up said that. And around Teddy Roosevelt's time was also when the American imperialism was on the rise. Like, the guy was a big proponent of that. And it's like during his presidency that we had events like the Hawaiian Islands and even a few others. Like I might be wrong about that, but like he was like a big supporter of American imperialism. The whole Great White Fleet, that whole thing was his whole idea.
Right.
And like he was also not wrong in his whole kind of arguments during America's involvement during World War I, or even before they got involved, because he thought like this is like, we are sending supplies to the Entente and a few others, but we're gonna just sit here and say like, oh no, we're neutral. It was just kind of sort of calling out the hypocrisy of it all, and like I know everyone does kind of remember at least his accomplishments during his presidency and what he did for the USA. But again, like no president's perfect. Like,
no.
Like even FDR and even like me, actually, like I actually do admire the man, and even Lincoln as well. There's no such thing as an infallible president. There's no such thing as like a squeaky clean sort of president.
The whole point is that they're supposed to be us.
Yeah.
Like they're just one of us that we put up there to
with their own self-interests as well. Like even if they are president, they all got their own self-interests, and like there is like that's why at the very least like I would love. If they could do it well, I would love a Teddy Roosevelt movie. I think a movie about him in our day and age kind of has to be made, because it has to kind of tell people that like, look, this is the kind of level of president that we had. The guy was a prima donna, like by all means. He was a very complicated man, and at the very least, like talking about Teddy specifically, he obviously did a lot of great things, and like the guy was just a badass. Above all, the guy got shot and still gave a speech. What the fuck kind of president do you know would have fucking gotten shot and then given a speech? It's fucking metal as shit, man. That shit's fucking hardcore.
I'm surprised there isn't more shit about him, to be honest. I mean, maybe that could be Oppenheimer's next one, but that one, I don't know. That actually genuinely does not sound like an Oppenheimer movie.
No, it might not even be Nolan. It might not be Nolan, but I think...
Not Oppenheimer, not a Nolan movie, no.
Not like that sort of level. But like, I think his life is, and his whole like, just kind of like his accomplishments, I think need to be presented just more for the kind of, maybe a bit more for the younger generation, just because of like, just at least like, we've had such a string of like, I'm even going to say it, Obama was a very mediocre president. He was like, you know, a lot of people celebrated him for being the first black president, but he was also the one that was telling the drones to fly in fucking Syria and everywhere else. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, he was the one saying that, not his generals. He was the one saying that. And, you know, everyone just sort of loves to focus on like the good. And I even think, give it like 20 years, there'll also be like probably a, maybe not Nolan, but like a biopic about like Obama that.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
yeah.
And it's just like, it's just too good not to make. And like, I don't know what, let's say, the ulterior motive would be to make one about him, because like, at least so far, like Obama's generally kind of seen, like, is kind of looked back favorably, his presidency, even though a lot of people still don't like Obamacare even to this day, and like, you know, among other shit that he's done. Mm-hmm. But like, it's I don't know, like a lot of those presidents that we had back in the day, and even FDR too, like he was a great president as well, like just kind of at least the way he navigated a country. He was the second president, well maybe I guess third, who navigated their country through a time of war. Lincoln, Wilson, and then plus FDR. And for FDR, at least, it's like he was dealing with a country that literally was broke as fuck by the outbreak of World War I. They weren't in the war, but they were broke as fuck by the beginning of it. And his whole like kind of neutrality stance, and even just the whole lend-leasing and shit, everyone kind of knows it as like kind of what managed to bring the Americans out of the economic like hellhole that they were in. It literally helped them from poverty in a way. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know, like I would just, like, I guess what I'm saying is, and what I'm rambling on about is just that like, oh, I would just love to see more presidents, like as more people like within our history, like kind of within like the sort of 20s to 30s era, a bit more kind of like kind of in the limelight, and just have like a couple more movies on them, or even like a short series. I think a fucking short series about like FDR or Teddy would fucking sell like hotcakes. A mini series about Teddy Roosevelt would be fucking hype as shit.
It depends on how it's marketed, to be honest. I mean, you got to make it not too historical for people to be interested in it. Like Oppenheimer, be like, hey, this is a Chris Nolan film, because that's why a lot of people would go to see it, went to go see it. A lot of other people wouldn't have given a shit. I wouldn't have seen it.
A lot of the shit that Teddy Roosevelt did seemed like it was out of an action movie anyways. The bro went to fucking South America, got sick, and managed to canoe his ass out of there and went back home.
Yeah.
It's actually insane some of the stuff he did. He went to war. He charged a fucking hill without horses. He was supposed to get horses, but he didn't get his horses. So he just said, hey, yo, fuck this. And he just charged the hill.
There is stuff that they could market, actually. Now
got
that you
shot
that.
And gave a speech. That alone is enough for a trailer.
And you know what? They could do the Oppenheimer thing with that too, where like they build up the tension and the music during various parts of the movie during other speeches, and then the audience doesn't know which speech is going to be the one where he gets shot. And then the bullet jump scares them, just like the fucking
like cuts to black, but you hear the gunshot.
Yeah. Or like,
and then Teddy Roosevelt has a text.
One. Yeah. Something like that.
Or just calls it would be it would be hilarious if they called it this. It's just called Teddy. And not even call it like Teddy, like Roosevelt or Teddy Roosevelt. It's just called Teddy. Everyone just automatically knows who the fuck they're talking about.
You know, honestly, it makes me think of how like a historical movie could even be like as successful or as popularized as like Oppenheimer has. I really do think the fact that Nolan was behind it had a lot to do with it, and just mainly the whole Barbenheimer
thing. Yeah,
like the Barbenheimer thing, which actually got people to come to the theaters off of social media trends, and now Hollywood's probably trying to figure out how they can capitalize on that while paying their workers as little as fucking possible.
While their writers are still on strike as well.
Yeah, while their writers and their actors are still on strike, and probably their animators soon. Like hush hush on that one.
Gonna be kind of hard to capitalize on that if you got nobody working for you.
Yeah, because I think
Hollywood
they can just still control social media trends as if it's not a volatile thing that communities just decide to make memes about and then like go see shit out of nowhere. It's not something corporatism can completely always control.
I also said, Hollywood is not a proactive sort of industry. It's a fucking reactive one. And
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're gonna like react to this and be like, "How can we make another Barbieheimer happen?" Like it just happened, man. It's like trying to create a meme. Memes just happen. Viral memes just happen. You know what I mean?
Trying to artificially make one is the downfall of anyone who makes memes.
That's what I'm saying. Like it has
to happen organically.
The next movie that comes out and is just called Teddy, like directed by Wes Anderson, it's gonna flop because they're gonna be like, we're trying to chase a trend here. We're trying to make a trend where there wasn't one. You know what I mean?
Because now the guys from Teddy, there's like the execs or whoever, they're gonna be reaching out to other fucking studios and gonna be like, hey, what's some shit that's coming out around like the time of when Teddy's coming out? So we got this and this. We have a movie about Winnie the Pooh getting fucked in the ass by by Eeyore. It's like, okay, can we? What's the date for that? Okay, so August 14th. All right. So we're gonna coordinate a simultaneous release of Winnie the Pooh gets fucked by Eeyore and Teddy. And it's gonna be Teddy gets fucked by Eeyore, and we're gonna coordinate that. It's gonna be a double feature.
Tinny.
Yeah.
Tinny.
Winnie Roosevelt.
Featuring Tom Hardy as Winnie the Pooh. Reprising his role, basically.
It's gonna be great. We're gonna make so much money. It's gonna be great.
Now, it really just brings the question of how you're going to get the general public to really give a shit about these historical movies. Because no offense, Dennis, but not everybody is a historian, and they don't give a shit about these things.
The way TikTokers present history is that they present it in a very allegorical sort of way where it's not ever 100% factual. That's a lot of times. But that's going to be the driving force of it all. They're going to, like, you see any TikTok, and like, any person who, who really likes some crazy shit that someone's done, right? You read up anything that Teddy Roosevelt has done, his exploits, and you just turn up like the sort of like grandioseness just a little bit, and it's gonna resonate with a lot of people because he really did do a lot of crazy shit. Even by our standards, it's actually kind of nuts what he did, like, in life. And like, I think if you like sort of like think, kind of say like some buzzwords, he's a badass, bro can kick some ass, and he really did, and like it'll just resonate with people, like, because young people had no reason to see Oppenheimer. I saw literal fucking kids younger than high schoolers watching this movie. I'm like, why are you watching this? How are you into this?
It is a very interesting phenomenon, isn't it? You know, like just how they were able to market this.
But that's what I'm saying. It's the power of social media in the end. Like, they're gonna find a way. And this whole Barbenheimer thing did kind of happen a bit organically. We can argue that. So at the very least, it's like, you know, it could happen again. But I also just feel that this is gonna be like, what do you say? Like, what do you call it? Like, it's gonna be one of those times where, okay, Hollywood's gonna look back at this, because I think this is kind of like not like a hallmark moment or whatever, but like it's more so just kind of like something that they're gonna look back on and kind of just see like, okay, can we replicate this? And they're gonna try. Of course, they're gonna try, because they'll jump on anything that will make them money. And I think this made Nolan more money than more so them, because it's fucking Nolan. He's like up there with Tarantino and like Scorsese. And I have a feeling they do pocket a lot of that shit, because it's like, I do need you. Like, they go to Hollywood and say, I do need you, but I also don't need you. So like, you know, I already got people like, you know, that are like, that would gladly work for me anyways. So, and I have enough money to pay them. So it's like, you know, I don't really need you, but like extra cash does help.
The only other time I could possibly think that this even happened was when Sonic the Hedgehog dropped around the same time as the Harley Quinn movie. And those were like, seemed to be like super opposites, but that didn't even result in like big box office, because I don't think the Harley Quinn movie did that well. It was called the Birds of Prey: The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, I believe it was called, and the Sonic the Hedgehog movie did gangbusters. So it didn't work the same way because they didn't market it that same way. They happened to be coming out the same week or the same weekend or day or something like that. I don't remember. And one of those movies did really well, and I believe the other one didn't, as far as I'm concerned. Both Barbie and Oppenheimer are doing really well. Maybe because they're bigger polar opposites. I don't know. This is what I'm saying. It's the weird absurdity and non-polarity, if you would, of like social media trends when this kind of thing happens. Because it started as a meme. Because it was just revealed like by Discussing Film or whoever these people on Twitter, X, my mistake, that oh, hey, Barbie and Oppenheimer are releasing this on the same day. And everybody started quote retweeting that, saying, like, we're going to learn a lot about society on that day, like, depending on, like, which movie, like, does better. You know what I mean? And as no shocker to anyone, Barbie is, I believe, making more money right now. Yeah. They're both making a shit ton of money, though, you know? But regardless,
Nolan getting his payday, like, no matter what.
The marketing is one thing. It's capitalizing on, like, what, like, humans are actually doing, which they always try to do on social media, which is not always an actual, like, representation of what's actually going on. As we all know, Twitter is not a real place. Now it is literally not a real place. But the thing is, even if you can do that, how are you going to make the movie good in the meantime? Like we said, a straight biopic of Oppenheimer would have had its niche, but I'm not sure if it would have, like, hit as different as being, this is a Christopher Nolan movie, one of the most esteemed directors in the world right now. So, for Teddy, I think a sort of realistic-ish, like, distinct
inspired by a true story is the route they're gonna have to take.
Yeah,
not based on a true story.
Work. So I think the only thing that could go down is if, because of, like, how absurd his antics really were, and like how his life was kind of like a real life Looney Tune at times with the shit that went down with him. I think there is probably one director, the first one that comes to mind, that I think could do his own spin on the story.
Sam Raimi.
Well, no. Not Sam.
Tobey Maguire plays a fucking young Teddy Roosevelt.
I mean, stranger things have happened, man. You know, fucking Chris Pratt is gonna be Garfield.
You know who I could see who they're gonna get as a young Teddy Roosevelt? Unironically, and it kind of pisses me off. It's Chris Pratt. It really pisses me off, but I honestly, I could see it. And it really annoys the fuck out of me that, like, he looks enough like the man, but it pains me that he's the only guy that my brain just straight away went to.
You know who they're going to cast as an old one?
Jack Black.
Pedro Pascal. Just comb that shit over, you know.
Give that big handlebar mustache that he had.
Yeah. The only way I could see, like, a Teddy movie, how are we going to make people care as much as they did about Oppenheimer? You know what I mean? What other esteemed director could put their spin on an actual story, a historical story that happened about a prominent historical figure? And because of how old-timey he is, what his antics were like, how it was a real-life Looney Tune, there's only one director that actually does come to mind, and that is Wes Anderson. I think Wes Anderson, in his distinct style, could make a very stupid fucking movie about Teddy that enough people would see. Maybe. I don't know how well his last movie did, whatever that alien movie was that had Tom Hanks in it, whatever it was called, the Grand Meteor, Grand Asteroid, whatever the fuck. I didn't see it.
The Grand Ass Rock. But,
what the fuck is... Hold on, what is that fucking movie called? Wes Anderson... Asteroid City. Like, Asteroid City, that movie, like, just came out recently. I don't know how well that movie did.
I can only assume is not doing well.
Yeah, and that movie's got a bunch of actors. It's got Scarlett Johansson, it's got Margot Robbie, it's got Tom Hanks. It doesn't have the best audience ratings from what I see.
Wow, what a surprise.
Edward Norton, who we always cast in his movies, Adrian Brody, Bryan Cranston's in it, Jeff Goldblum, Steve Carell, what the fuck? It keeps going.
There was that one other movie that about a bunch of A-listers. It was the one about the Island of Dogs. That one also, like, you know.
Well, all of Wes Anderson's movies usually do.
Yeah. So it's like...
Again, no Bill Murray, shockingly enough, because he always casts Bill Murray in, like, every fucking movie he makes.
Isn't Bill Murray, like Bill Murray's like 98 years old now or something?
He's quite old now. I will say that.
I feel as if for a guy like Bill, like, even Jack Nicholson, like, after, like, he turned, like, 70 or something, he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this shit.
So it just kind of makes you think, like, is it because it was Chris Nolan? Is it because of the Barbieheimer thing? Or is it both? Because I'm trying to think of a way, how could Hollywood try to capitalize and, like, try to make another Barbieheimer with another historical figure, with another famous director, and just have the same results happen? I'm not sure it can be done.
It's a lightning in a bottle, in my opinion.
Yeah, because,
like,
again, no disrespect, Dennis. Not everyone is a historian. If you make a straight biopic, those audiences are way more niche than something like, Chris Nolan directed this, let's go see it.
Even like that one movie about Hitler, it was Jojo Rabbit or whatever. I forgot who made it exactly.
That movie was fucking hilarious.
I did hear, it was pretty funny.
I love that movie.
I actually kind of want to go get around to watching that one, but
Jojo Rabbit. That was directed by Taika Waititi.
Oh, so Miss Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
Guardians of the Galaxy? I think that was him. I think that's Taika. He is in
Thor Ragnarok, Thor Love and Thunder.
So not Guardians. No, Guardians is I was gonna say Tim Gunn. James Gunn. Tim Gunn.
No Guardians. This is the guy who made all the comedy fucking Thor movies. Like when Thor started like switching to comedy.
It's sort of like, it was like that little weird tonal shift. But for Taika, like there was that one movie that everyone memes on. Like it's that one scene where Hitler is in the bunker and like he's like, "Das war ein Befehl, the Angriffssteiner ein Befehl." Like that one movie like is literally about like the downfall of Hitler and like, you know, his last days on Earth before he offed himself. And that movie made he was played by Bruno Ganz. Played a great Hitler. Holy shit. Damn, I might be on a list for that, but no. But like, at least that movie, right?
Maybe.
Like, a bit. Like, at least for that movie, right? Like, just seeing like the last, we never really got a movie like that, and the only reason why anyone even knows that movie is because of the fucking meme of Hitler having his humongous tirade under his basement and like just kind of going off on everybody. And nobody really cared about that movie. I mean, like the people who like obviously, you know, I guess had an interest in World War II, or at the very least, like, you know, even people who just kind of like had family who lived through that shit, and then just seeing the guy who perpetrated all the horrible shit that happened to their ancestors, like, you know, just seeing him like kind of just shuffling through life before he killed himself.
Yeah.
Like, is honestly interesting, but like, yeah, as David said, like, you know, this movie wasn't exactly widely fucking advertised. I think the guy who actually played Hitler, he had like a niece or a daughter or something who would like Sieg Heil him like thing just playfully like in the hallway, and he's like stop, don't do that. I know it was all just for fun, but it was just kind of like, if I had an uncle who like played Hitler, I would also just be like, just like playfully like,
That's pretty fucking funny.
It's like, how are you, uncle? How do you
like, hi. Fucking that's good.
Yeah. So like, again, I think we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. I know David had his naked Chun-Li story that he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I just wanted to go off about it because it was a games journalism thing. Because Dennis, what happened with that? To be very brief about it, not as a topic. Games Radar, a guy from Games Radar did a report on it, and in textbook game journalism did zero fucking research and thought it was the player's mod. The thing with Street Fighter 6, Dennis, is that Street Fighter has in-game commentary. So on online tournaments, the commentators or the tournament organizers stream it from their setup, and it's like lagless or whatever, and it's viewed from their end. But things like mods, like the game, is client side.
Okay.
Which means that what's going to be on screen is the mods that are installed on their fucking console.
Mm-hmm.
But because the fucking idiot game journalist did zero research and just like wrote a bait piece for clicks, thought it was the player's mod, and dropped his full government name in the fucking article, calling him the horny one. Basically, for having that mod there.
He doxed the fucker?
It wasn't even his mod.
What a fucking asshole. Fuck
as soon
this
as
guy.
they saw that the Chun-Li was naked on stream, they weren't fighting each other, and they cut the stream. Basically immediately, because they're like, what the fuck is that? It was the tournament organizer's mod, and the guy was just a fucking moron, and like either forgot he had that, or just didn't care, and just left it there like full out. That's the reason I wanted to bring up that story, because we could have gone off on gaming journalism forever, but I'm kind of glad we didn't talk about it, because that was pretty much the whole bit of that story, basically. And the player is threatening legal action. Basically, he's threatening legal action
Fuck
because
that
he's like,
guy.
it's straight defamation. And it's just gaming journalism, man. Like, literally,
Gaming journalism is a
internship rejects.
It is a fucking joke. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Video game journalism has been a joke and has always been a joke. I'm sorry. Like, it is quite arguably, like, the credibility from any of those kind of outlets all got torpedoed years ago. And I couldn't even give less of a fuck about most of them anyways.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know what happened, basically there was an online Street Fighter tournament. It's being streamed or whatever, and then as soon as the match started, Chun-Li was naked. Not like in a scantily dressed outfit, not in her bra and panties, like fucking big ass titties like hanging around, full hips and everything, ass out, like clam reeking up the joint, like everything. Fully naked. Modification. So they realized this, the TOs had to react in time and they cut the stream, and then this is when all that shit happened with like Games Radar and whatnot. But whatever, it's just another classic story of just why gaming journalism is a joke and why you should literally never take these people seriously. It's like, it's all for clicks. It's a business at the end of the day. Got me thinking existentially. And among other things, like certain movies and whatnot, got me thinking existentially. But we're done. Those are my thoughts on it, to be honest. It was not my favorite movie. I didn't dislike it. Not my favorite Chris Nolan movie. It was just too Nolan-y for me. Like, just way too many
post-Dark Knight Nolan is
out of order storytelling, like way too many jump cuts. It was just too much. But it was immersive enough, and like the tension was great, like for like when they're testing the bomb and everything. The jump scare actually got me when like I tried really hard to be like, no, it's not gonna get me. It's not gonna get me, and it fucking got me. And the worst is when it happens to him again, when he's in the fucking like boardroom and shit, and they show the flash and you're bracing up for the explosion, and then it never happens. That was bullshit, bro. Like, I was mad when that went down. You got me all tensed up for nothing.
Yeah, I got blue-balled by Nolan. Nolan blue-balled you.
It wouldn't be the first time I got blue-balled recently.
But guys, we're done. This shit's been on long enough. Here's our plugs.
Here's the plugs.
Here's X, that wonderful new social media platform. It used to be another thing, but it's now another thing. So
I'm putting the bird.
I know. I'm just memeing.
I don't care.
Let me meme, okay? So yeah, the X marks the spot, as you well know. And it's also where that bird is. So, also go on there and check us out there if you wish.
Instagram.
Big Boom Man make big booms, and he then becomes Sad Man and died alone. I don't even know if he did Sad Man.
Dude, it sucks because I wanted to name this episode Chun-Li Drops the Bomb, and I was gonna put a nuclear explosion in the background and just a naked Chun-Li at the front and censor her and everything. That's another reason I kind of wanted to talk about it in this one.
Just do it anyways. Like, we talked
about the Chun-Li shit for like fucking 3 minutes.
Do it. Just put Cillian Murphy's Oppenheimer next to Chun-Li, and then boom, there you go. That's it. There you go. Boom. Thumbnail idea.
Boom.
With a fucking nuclear explosion in the back. It's easy. I also gotta go. So
yeah, I'm hungry. I gotta go. We love y'all. YouTube.com/Nintoonist. All that shit. Like, comment, subscribe. Leave us reviews. Spotify and Apple Podcasts, please. Good reviews help our SEO. And we hope you guys enjoyed this one. Maybe I'll talk more about the Chun-Li shit next week, but I doubt it. Unless there's some major development where
exactly.
Games Radar is countersuing this player for like no fucking reason.
And then the guy countersues his countersue, and I'm gonna countersue the fuck out of you to give you the money that you're trying to take from me, that I'm trying to take from you. And then so it's like a legal battle that goes on for 10 million years.
Jerk off the guy in the wet dream to get out of Inception. We love y'all. Here's your kiss. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's what the bomb sounded like.